Hi there, I'm Nancy from Black Sheep Knitting in Needham, Massachusetts. I'm actually at home today. Today is the day I'm not working. We're a yarn shop in Needham, just outside of Boston, and we have an online shop at blacksheepknitting.com. I hope you'll come visit it. Last video that I did, I talked about a Vogue knitting destination retreat that I went to in Lake Placid, New York. It was a workshop to knit the perfect sweater with Joji Locatelli and Vera Velmaki. Joji, as I mentioned before, is from Buenos Aires, and Vera is from outside of Helsinki, Finland. They are great friends, and they design together. They do a ebook that has at least 4 patterns, sometimes more. I think they do it once a year or more. It's called Interpretations, and it has some great patterns. So I wanted to tell you more about what went on in the workshop. Before I do, though, I wanted to show you a finished object of mine. I knit this baby blanket, excuse me, in a new yarn from Juniper Moon Fibers called Nimbus. And it knits at about 3.5 stitches to the inch, I believe. I knit this on a 10.5 in a seed stitch. So it's about one of the easiest blankets you can do. We have several new colors of Nimbus in the shop, and those will be online, I believe, pretty soon. And I think we're gonna make some kits. So all I did was cast on an uneven number of stitches and knit in a seed stitch, and I knit each stripe for 6 inches. Now, I didn't use the entire skein. If you wanted to make a bigger blanket, you could knit through each ball and make sure that they're the same length. You might want to start with a larger cast on. I'll have the excuse me, I'll have the pattern available in the shop this week. So it's a great, quick, if you sat down, I didn't knit this all at once because I was knitting on other things, but it's a simple 2-week project, maybe less, because you're on such a large needle. And oops, I just saw a mistake. I'm not taking it out, but there was I knit 2 stitches where I should have done a knit and purl. But oh well, that happens. Anyway, let's get on with talking about the workshop. So the idea of this workshop was to knit the perfect sweater for you. And they offered several different styles of sweater that were based on the same steps. So it's a top down. So you could do either a V-neck or a cardigan or V-neck pullover, or a crew neck cardigan or pullover. So we talked about construction. We talked about how to choose a sweater for your body, how to wear sweaters. We talked about what's most flattering. I think one of their opinions was that a V-neck sweater is often quite flattering to people, and that they showed us also how to make the V-neck shorter or longer if you like something that's a little more low cut. And I think it has to do with how quickly you increase as you're coming from the top down. We took our body measurements, which was a very thorough experience, and I would recommend that you do that for yourself. They had us do our upper bust, the lower bust, which is the widest part of your bust. We did our waist. We did an upper hip and a lower hip. So the upper hip is where your hip bones end, or your pelvic bones, I guess they're right where they are. And then down, your lower hips were down at the widest part, probably around your backside and your thighs, the widest part. Then you did your upper arm. So you measured your arm here. We did armhole depth from the top of your shoulder down to your armhole, and that was a straight line down. That dimension changes a little if you're curved, if you're putting a set-in sleeve, but for our purposes, it was just this measurement. And you want it, one of the things that, we measured from the armhole to the waist. We measured our sleeve length from your armhole to your wrist. And we also measured across the back, across your back, which was an interesting measurement to have. I would recommend that you get together with a friend and do these measurements, write them down and have them with you when you're knitting, have them in your iPhone, somewhere where you can easily access those. Because we're all built differently, some of us have longer arms, longer waists, and I've said this many times, when you're knitting a pattern, you want to use your measurements, not the pattern's measurements, although that chest measurement is probably the most important one to start choosing a size. We talked about how the measurement you should look at when you're looking at a pattern is the finished measurement. And we talked about positive ease and negative ease. So positive ease is when you have extra room, and negative ease is when something fits you tightly. So you need to be sure to read what the measurements are. Are they a finished measurement, or is they to fit bust size, whatever? Those were really important. We talked about, and I'm just going to go through, then choosing your size based on those measurements. One of the things we talked about is, a typical ease, a classic fit, a close fitting, a loose fit, and an oversized. And be sure to look at your pattern and see if it is an oversized sweater. You may not want that kind of sweater, and so you may want to make alterations. We did talk a lot about how to do alterations in sizing, how to change things, how to do waist shaping, when to do it, how much to do. We talked about adding positive ease, adding length, and adding textures and patterns. So the patterns that they gave us were meant to be changed if you wanted to add things. They're very simple, basic patterns. You could add to them. You could, make something fitted that wasn't fitted. You could add a cable or texture, anything. So we all set off on first to do a swatch. So we did a swatch. This sweater, I think, was supposed to be, it was either 24 or 26 stitches to the inch. I mean, over 4 inches. So the yarn I brought with me was the Malabrigo Machita, which is a beautiful single ply merino. I did a swatch, and we talked about the importance of washing your swatch and then drying it and pinning it out, because for a lot of reasons, yarns fluff up a little bit, they get softer. A lot of things happen when you wash them. So you want to be sure that you know what your fabric is going to be like. Well, lo and behold, I did mine, and it was beautiful, and I love it, but it wasn't going to work for what I wanted to do. I wanted to do the, oh, now I'm not going to be able to find it, but I wanted to do a V-neck cardigan. But I didn't want it terribly tailored. I wanted to wear it like with dresses or skirts. So I had to figure out how was I going to do that. So this is the pattern I chose to do. And this fabric that I created was too flimsy. So fortunately, and I'll bring this out, at the workshop, at the retreat, they had some vendors, and they had a wonderful woman from Yarn Addict company, and she had this is a Surrey alpaca with silk that is a great alternative to mohair because it doesn't itch. And some people, the stuff doesn't fly off it and get in your mouth when you knit with it. So I chose to put it together with my fingering weight merino. Of course, that changed my gauge a great deal. So what I chose to do was go down a size in the pattern because I was going to get a bigger stitch gauge. I was going to get fewer stitches per inch because I've added a yarn to this. And I went up in my needle size. So I think I had started on a 4 maybe, and now I'm up to a 6. So this is what I chose to do and I loved the fabric that this made so much that I haven't been able to stop knitting it. So this is what I've done so far. Let me just get this straightened out. So I have my cardigan, and I did a ribbing at the bottom, and then I chose to do a collar and front band in a 1x1 rib, and I think it's going to end up being probably a couple of inches wide. I wanted it to have kind of a shawl collar look. I will then go and put these stitches on needles and knit sleeves. Probably they will be a little longer than 3/4 length. I've tried this on many times, which I recommend, and that was something we talked about in the workshop, was make sure you try on your garments as you're doing them. Measure, measure, measure. There is no reason that you should make a sweater and then have it not fit you or not look well on you. So one of the things that they emphasized in the workshop was to think about what's your lifestyle, what do you like to wear, what are your activities, what things do you do in a normal day. So how would you knit a sweater that you'll want to wear a lot. I remember that Andrea Doig, who is from Fruity Knitting, if you've seen her podcast, she knits sweaters and then tends to wear them like 5 days in a row, or wear them every day, if she really likes them. I think I've seen maybe she's torn out a few things that she didn't like. But make sure if you're going to put all this time and effort into this exercise that you knit something, number one, that you love the feel of it, you love the fabric, you love the style, and you love the fit, and that it fits into your lifestyle. Something that you'll want to wear all the time, not something that you finish and throw in your closet and say, that didn't fit. And that was the thing that one of the things that I came away from in this workshop was that you can knit the perfect sweater for you. I will be offering a class sort of based on things that I learned and how to knit and find the perfect sweater for you, for your body type, for your lifestyle, for the kinds of activities that you do. You don't want to make a fancy sweater with sequins all over it if you never go out anywhere fancy. If you're somebody who likes the outdoors, then of course you'll want to make something that's warm, something out of wool that you can throw on when you go out for a hike, or if you're out watching your grandchild or your child on the soccer field. You want things that fit into the way that you live. If you're somebody who gets hot all the time, if you're going through the dreadful menopause, you might want to find something that is lightweight. There are a lot of lightweight wools that will breathe and won't be quite so hot. I'm at this stage in my life, in my 70s now, that I'm cold all the time. So I love a thick wool sweater, and I'm going to love this because this is it's so yummy, it's so soft. I could wear it next to my skin, and that's the lovely thing about this yarn, is you can wear it next to your skin. It will not, I promise you, it won't itch at all. And we'll be getting some Surrey alpaca in the shop. I'm just catching birds at my bird feeder out the window. We'll have those in the shop. A couple of announcements. We are, so that was the gist of this workshop, and I do encourage you, if you see one of these things coming up, find the time or save your money and see if you can make it work for you to go to them, because you learn so much. And again, as I said, I made some great friends. I met some very interesting people. And it's, as I said before, it's very easy to go on your own. And if you like a little peace and quiet from your daily hectic life, I do suggest you try one of these workshops. One of the things I wanted to talk about was a new workshop that's coming up on how to knit. It's going to be to learn to knit. It'll be a 4-week workshop. It will begin, I think I'm planning on Wednesday afternoon, starting in about a week or two, and that'll be announced on our emails. So if you have friends or family or someone that you know who wants to learn to knit, this is the perfect time to do it. If you don't have a vacation planned for July, come in and learn to knit and have fun with the rest of us. So to wrap things up today, I have a favorite thing and a tip. So my favorite thing today is highlighter tape. And I use highlighter tape to, this is one that's actually a fancy one called washi tape. But I use the highlighter tape to put underneath the row that I'm currently working on. I don't know how many of you are able to look down and find where you were in a pattern if you've gone off to start the tea kettle or something, but I can't. And I find that if I use washi tape or highlighter tape, I can look down immediately and see where I am. Also, if you're doing something with a chart, it's you just really have to use it because it shows you exactly where you are in the chart, and you don't have to spend time figuring out where you left off. I also use the tape, often this on my particular pattern, it says continue a decrease round every 12th row 11 times. So what I do on my, and you can't see it here, but I write the number of rows I've done, and then I put a dot over the number where I've done my decrease. So I can keep track of what I'm doing. I don't have to have a separate notebook. I just write it on my highlighter tape, and that seems to work really well. I can't knit without these. I have to have it because I have to be able to see where I was. You can also write a little note where you left off, or if you're counting those decrease rounds, you can look down and see the last one you did. I always write down the number of the row that I did after I finished the row, so I know exactly where I am. So these are wonderful. We have them in the shop, and we also have washi tape, which is a tape with designs on it. They're from Japan, I think, but they're kind of fun. My other tip is frequently people will come in and buy enough sweater for an Afghan or a sweater, which is multiple skeins. And sometimes people ask to have them all wound at once. The issue I have with that is that if you wind yarn, sometimes it gets stretched a little bit, and if it sits stretched like that, it can, yarn has a memory. It can stay, I wouldn't call it memory, but it can be a little bit stretched. That over time can change your gauge. So, yarns that come, this is called a hank. They have to be wound into a ball. So as a rule, I only do about 2 at a time, because if you're making an Afghan, it could take you a year. A sweater can take you 2 or 3 months. So we like to do 2 at a time. We're happy to have you come in, and we can wind them for you if we have time, or we can show you how to use our winder. But I don't recommend winding lots of skeins all at once. And in part, sometimes the winder winds them pretty tightly, and that does stretch some of the yarns, and so therefore it would change your gauge. I often do them by myself, by hand, because I'll be, it's 10 o'clock at night and I need a new skein. And I don't feel like going down to my basement to use my winder, so I just have fun winding it around my knees, and I always wind around my fingers and then take them out. This ensures that you haven't wound it too tightly. So if you wind it very gently, the yarn won't stretch, your gauge will remain the same. So that's my tip for today. I do want to encourage you to shop online if you can. Like us on Facebook. The upcoming workshop, the newest one we have, is Learn to Knit, and that will start on, I believe, the 13th. I'm not sure, but I think it is. We'll have an announcement of that probably in this email or in our next email. You can call the shop to sign up. So if you know somebody who'd like to learn to knit, it's 4 Wednesdays in a row. The class is about an hour and a half, and we hope at the end of those 4 weeks you'll know how to knit and purl. And of course in knitting, that's kind of all you need to know, other than learning to read patterns, etc. So we'll go over all of that in the class. So tell your friends that it's a good thing to do, particularly if you're not going away in that time period. It'll give you a little vacation to come into the shop and knit for an hour and a half. Anyway, that's it for today, and have a great week of knitting. Have a glorious 4th of July weekend. I think the weather's supposed to be decent. Enjoy yourselves and do some knitting. Bye-bye.